Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Coach Simmons, and welcome to the Off-Season 365 podcast sponsored by Dynasty Athletic Performance, powered by North Carolina Football Connections. Today, we have a special guest. Today, we will welcome Coach Philip Russ, Athletic Director and Head Football Coach at East Rutherford High School in Boston, North Carolina. Today, he will be speaking with us about a number of different things, but primarily analytical game planning and play calling in high school. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing outstanding. Glad to be with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time. We truly appreciate all you do for the state of North Carolina, and we look forward to your presentation.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure to be able to get on here and help coaches and kind of give a little insight of some things that have made us successful in these last couple of seasons that we've been able to rattle off.
All right, absolutely, Coach. All right, well, the floor is yours, and we look forward to a great show.
Hey, I appreciate it. Well, first off, welcome everybody to probably something that I would say that a lot of high school coaches have wanted to dabble in, something I've taken kind of special interest in all the research and focal point of analytical football. So basically what we're going to talk about today, or what I want to share, is kind of like a little insight of what we do at East Rutherford to kind of prepare ourselves for Friday nights. Basically what happens when you look at analytics, you're trying to say these are statistics or a deep dive into what you do, your opponent does, and trying to figure out just basically how you're going to strategically call the plays in the game. I mean, a lot of times it falls under coordinators and how do you develop your coordinators as a head coach. Myself, I'm the head coach and defensive coordinator. So a lot of times I think I've taken on the tendency piece of studying what offensive teams are setting up or how they're trying to exploit their explosive plays. Everybody likes to say there's 5 plays in every ball game that a team has to change the outcome of a game, and we like to try to get a little bit deeper in that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to talk to you. I've got some stuff that I'll share my email at the end. If there's things that you want to see, kind of where we got our information from, how we do our structure, that sort of thing. I didn't want to just kind of sell out, here's what we do, here it is, and not have the answers behind it, or also put up some stuff in a presentation that drew a lot of questions to when I could just talk through it, kind of flesh it out for you. And then on the back end, if you're interested and you want me to send these sort of things to you, I can. So the first thing you have to do when you're trying to view analytics is what is the data telling you? What are you trying to find? Some of the things that we tried to look at were, we went to some clinics last year in Charlotte. I was able to send our offensive coordinator, Matt Leone, at North Carolina Central, and listening to his process of third down efficiency. He went through and basically said that if they were 63 or 65% on third down, they won the football game. So we started studying, looking back at the games that we were successful at, and noticed that third down efficiency was key. And so we put in some drills that we actually took from North Carolina Central. Basically, it's called a first and third drill. We line up best on best, and our defense lines up, and they call whatever they think the offense is about to do. Our offense feels confident. And so basically you run your first down play, and then whatever yardage you don't gain in the first down now becomes your third down play. So let's say you run power and you get 4 yards. Now it's third down and 6. And so now you've got to develop what is your mindset, 3rd and 6 for your offense. And we kind of do this as like a crossover, or what we call a change of pace practice drill. So we're right in the middle of inside run, or we're right inside of Skelly, and I'll blow the whistle. We'll run to the middle of the field. We'll go best on best. We'll put the sticks up. They run a play 1st and 10, whatever it ends up being, 3rd and 4. Now they're running their best 3rd and 4. It puts pressure on your coordinators. It puts pressure on your kids. It's a quick return analysis. So basically you're able to write down, as a head coach, I'm able to say, okay, the offensive coordinator in that play decided to give power to the left, and then defensive coordinator looks like he was going to slant the front away from the strength, and he brought like a play side pressure. That's what it was able to do. So then it was giving me some in practice analysis. The other stuff that we started looking at that I kind of played around with was using huddle, more of a tool of analytics in terms of what do we do? What is our tendencies? A lot of times we spend time looking at scout film determining defensive and offensive tendencies of our opponent, but we don't spend a lot of time breaking us down. So a lot of times on Saturday, I'll knock out the stat work, and then I will reach out to our OC and say, hey, look, we were 61% efficient on third down. We were 42% efficient on fourth down tries. This is how many touchdowns you got. This is your yards per carry. I stayed away from the total stat yardage and really focused on basically the big keys for us. And so as we developed this year one, we were able to just compile data. I can tell you, if you want to implement analytics into your decision making, you have to know your kids. You have to know your schemes. You have to know the flow of the game. You have to know your opponent. And so I would tell most coaches this is not a year one implementation. This is probably year two is when you kind of like dig around, and then year three, you will start seeing and reap the benefits. Year one, we returned back to a varsity season. We were 1-9. So there was a lot of data to break through, and there wasn't a lot of positives. So we're trying to find the positive. Year two, we were able to go 5-6, and we made the playoffs, and we finished second in our conference. And this past year, we were 8-4. And made it to the third round of the playoffs and finished second in the conference as well. So the big thing that jumped out to us was the statistic analytics of what we were trying to do and accomplish. It was able to show us that we could focus on the third down efficiency on offense. We could make those decisions. We could pick up tendencies for defensive pressures. And so just kind of give you like a rundown of some of those decisions, like in game, when you're facing – let's just say it was 3rd and 5. A lot of people, especially like a lot of my coaches on staff, like I didn't really break into or delve deep too much with my position coaches. It was just me and the coordinators that kind of sat around and talked through this. So like in game, when it was 3rd and 3, I would just say on the headset to the OC, like, hey, whatever you get right here, just know I'm going to go ahead and give you the ball for the next one, especially early in the game. The analytics side that we picked up in the NFL and college is if you think that later in the ball game you might be in a juggernaut type matchup to where it's going to come down, it's 21-21 late in the fourth, and you think if it's 4th and 2 and you've got the ball with a minute or so left, are you going to put your kids in that situation to have the expectation to get that 4th down? Or you're going to call these plays or this pool of plays, are you going to pull from that in that time of the game when it's most crucial? So what we try to do is develop identity not only in practice but in a game. A lot of times if you watch our game film, our first quarter into probably mid-second quarter, if it's 4th and manageable, if it's 4th and short and we're in a good positive side of the field, there was times this year that we were like 4th and 2, 4th and 1 on our own 40. And I'm like, yeah, just go ahead. Because the thing is, if you call a timeout and still a timeout from the defense, they want to burn one and try to get broke down and figure out what you're about to do. But a lot of times they trust their calls early in the game and we trust our calls. And so based on the analytics side, that's where the play calling matches the forecasting of your stats, so to speak. So we didn't want to spend a lot of time. We stayed within our top 3 or 4 plays, and it paid off. Now, if you go against the grain and let's say you don't get it, you kind of sit back and you look at your defense and you're like, hey, we want to challenge early. The thing about high school sports, differently than college and differently than NFL, is a lot of times you got to take chances, not when the game's on the line. You got to take chances early, because early on you can recover from, let's just say you do it, they go down, they score, it's a 7-0 deficit. You can recover from that. So having that mentality on the sideline was able to guide me. So how do you implement that into your play call sheet? Well, there's different quadrants on my play call sheet. Obviously being a defensive play caller, I've got all the stunts and fronts. I've got everything. I've got all their main play sets, all their formations. But in the bottom right quadrant of my play call sheet, obviously it's the same stuff that you need as a head coach. If you're down by this, go for 2. If you're up by this, go for 1. But I also piece together statistics on the other team. Like, hey, when they're in 4th down and manage, they're going to add a guy in. Maybe we catch them if we go up tempo, 4th and 1, up tempo. They're thinking heavy. They're thinking that we're going to go downhill with the run game. They're going to try to slide in an extra defensive lineman. They're going to pull a DB out. Maybe we just, catch them in between, get a penalty there. How do they handle hard counts? How they handle hard counts in situations that are tense and high pressure. And the only reason why you do these sort of things is because the analytics say that if you can build confidence, it's just like when you go in the gym as a basketball player. You consistently start out with close shots and you back up. You don't go in there and start ripping threes. You build your confidence up as you go through your warm-up. Well, the same thing goes. You got to take some easy lobs early. A lot of times we'll go in there and we've got most of our game plan, and we might only go for it on 4th down 5 times, and that's the most we've ever done in a game. But out of those 5, 3 of those were in the first half. and 2 are in the first quarter. And, then you look back at your efficiency. We figured out that if we could finish 68% or better in third down efficiency, or we could end up being at least 75% efficient in fourth down, we found that most of those games, if not, I think when we went back and looked at it, especially like this year, out of our 8 wins, we were 8 for 8. In the games that we lost, our third down efficiency was probably some of the lower tiered time. I think there was only, looking back at it, there was only really one game that we kind of scratched our head because we were positive in the third down and fourth down category. We ended up losing that ball game by 1 point. And so when you look at our regular season losses this past year, if you grouped them all, we lost by 1, we lost by 8, we lost by 3. You piece that into your algorithm. Those are really high quality football games. Those are not your typical losses. So the breakdown of analytics in our coaches meetings in our film study was able to put us in very, I would just say very positive situations. So how do you get this data? Well, when you go to huddle, a lot of times you get scout film. Well, we usually do huddle assist within our program. And then the thing that I like to do is I like to go in outside of huddle assist and verify that I've got their first down, second down, third down, fourth down, and all the yardage. A lot of people don't want to chart the yardage of their opponent, but I try to do that. And then I also do that with my game film after I've played somebody. And so the comparison is when we're scouting, we develop little asterisks within our play, our game plan, so to speak. And so then when we're going through, we're looking like, hey, okay, on the defensive side, for instance, hey, this dude takes a shot on second down on drives 2, 3, 4, and 5. So first drive, he's trying to fill out, and what does that mean? So basic breakdown of game planning. What does every coach do that's I would say a high quality coordinator? They're going to give you a scripted 10-play drive. Most coaches are going to they're going to go off schedule sometimes if they get to play 5 and they really like the alignment or they find the leverage that they're looking for, they get the right hats in the box. But a lot of times your high quality offensive coordinators are going to give you, as a defensive coordinator, they're going to give you a 10-play script. They're going to multiple personnel you. They're going to give you run to pass. They're going to give you play action. They're going to give you different phases of their offense to try to locate a way to get the right hats for them that make them feel comfortable. So the thing is in those first 10 plays, it's just like what you're seeing in the college football playoff. You're not seeing a lot of explosive, exciting stuff happen in these first drives because everybody's just kind of playing chess. They're filling each other out. They're finding those pieces. So a lot of times what we'll do is we try to see what is scripted and is there any comparisons within those first 10 plays. So me as a defensive coordinator, I take the first 10 plays of all the scout film that I have of an opponent and I break it down and I mesh it and I try to see, maybe were there any relative formations in that first 10? Are there any play schemes or is there any play concepts that they're fixing to try to, just test the waters? And what are some things that I can do as a DC, maybe to give them a multiple faceted, maybe I want them in 12 personnel. So do I give them a lighter box and give them some success in that first 10 place, piece? And when you give them those type of answers, how do they respond? So you find out and you look at the opponent and you see how the opponents that they've played try to gauge and try to plan, their defensive of tactic. And so then we take that, we mesh that into our system and we use that in our algorithm. And then it turns into basically tally marks. We've got our base sets. We know what they want to be in and we just tally that up. And then the next thing that I look at is, like I said, I go to third down efficiency. What are their third down calls? Where do they feel most comfortable in a third and short, in a third and mid, and a third and long? How do they try to manage that? And then if they get a quality yardage, let's say not the first down, are they a team that is very, very reserved? Are they going to punt it away? Is it 4th and 3 and short? Anything under 4th and 3 they're going for. Okay, so then you chart what they do. Then basically what I do is I will build a report out of the new huddle, and it will give me all of their third down plays. It'll give me all of their fourth down plays, and it gives me the percentages, percentage that, I will chart it out that, hey, this fourth down play, this resulted in 5 first downs over 3 games. This third down play resulted in 2 first downs. And so we basically build that into our practice plan. So then when we go to our first and third, or we go into our scout process, there are periods that I'll say we like to call it goal line just because our defense will play with their ears pinned back a little bit more. And it lets me see a lot more energy in practice instead of saying, hey, guys, this is their third down package. I'll just say, all right, hey, we're going goal line for 5. These next 5 plays goal line. Because in that, we're attacking with the same mentality that we would do in a 3rd and short or a 4th and short. So it basically just kind of promotes the kids' energy, and it kind of gets us a real game experience to kind of see where I can toy around with some defensive pressures and different looks to try to see how to get them off schedule there. So really and truly, when you're looking at analytics, there's a lot. It just depends on what you want your identity to be. If you're an offensive coordinator, you're looking to how to take shots. You need to see when they're in the covers that you want the most. Are they a team that just sits cover 3, or are they a roll 3 team, or do they roll to the boundary? Do they roll into the field? Are they going to give you cover 2 but really sit in 4? You figure out those and want to see how you're taking those shots. And really it helps ROC because I can say, hey, man, looking at the film, breaking it down, it looks like he's just going to be this. It's a lot more fun when you're sitting there and you're trying to put your situations into game-like scenarios. Like a lot of times we will get ahead in a game and we restructure our process because I put those pressures on the OC. Like I think there was one time this year we had it was like a 3rd and 8. And I told him, I said, you got 2 plays here. Let's see what your best 2 plays are, coach. He's like, can I have a timeout? Sure, take a timeout. We were up by 10. It was 3rd quarter. So I wanted to see where his process was going to see him off. And then I've got his offensive play call sheet in my hand, and I'm listening, and I stay back. I try to give the autonomy to him. I see where his calls are, and then I'll step back. And he gets that 3rd and 8. Now it's 4th and 4. Coach, what do you think? I was like, hey, I think that you've got this and this available in your bag. Let's go ahead and push the envelope, put our kids in this situation because we don't know if we're going to need it next week. We need to make sure we can execute when there's pressure on. So a lot of it is how do you play call in the game? That's where we found that analytics have jumped off the page for us and really have kind of set us apart. And it guides your drills. You go best on best, or you go, even if you go on air, like we want tempo. There's a lot of times we want to go tempo and then we want to hit the brakes offensively. Or there's a lot of times we want that defense in a tempo set. Now you've come up big. Now you've got to settle in and cross your keys and make sure that you get the stop that you want in certain points. So we try to do that, and we try to make sure that the kids are pressured early in the game when the score's not I guess an indicator of success or fail. We want it to be when it's very manageable early on so that we can say, okay, we're going to be able to do what we need to do. Or, hey, the stats are not lining up. It's not matching. They're giving us something different. And so then that's where the halftime adjustment goes in, because a lot of times we'll take huddle sideline and we kind of develop a second half plan. And you'll ask our kids, we don't make a ton of adjustments in second half. What we'll do is we'll key up 2 or 3 things that we found within ourselves. We've told them all year like that we were our worst enemy. So if we were doing something that was against what we had practiced all week, that's how we had used the data to say, hey, look, here it is. We'll pull it up on a spreadsheet from Monday's team meeting and say, hey, remember this, key that. And so it paid out for us. So, Coach, you got any questions? I mean, if you want to guide me through anything of like kind of how we delve into some of this, I can go off that, whatever you've got.
Thank you for your information, Coach. I don't have any questions, but I was taking notes while you were speaking. Some of the key notes that you shared. Build confidence early. In the game, build confidence early. But it all boils down to being prepared at practice. 68% or better on third down. That was a goal of you guys, and I do think that that's pretty much universal to all high school programs. 75% on fourth down, and that's a very important tendency as well. You also mentioned that you have meetings with your coordinators, which I think is huge. To make sure that everyone is on the same page and that you guys are playing complementary football. Heavy lifting up front. Putting all the data into huddle, and that's a very, very tedious process, but it does share dividends. Charting the opponent, developing an asterisk of calls on your call sheet. Those are just some of the many key points that I was able to chart down. But I do think that is huge. But most importantly, Coach, thank you for your time. Before we let you go, do you have any lasting words for the audience?
I would tell you that the biggest thing that I've seen staff to staff, and when I talk to other coaches, is the misuse of huddle and the options that you can get within it. The deeper you get into it, the more reports, pie charts, graphs, and things like that. And I'll be honest with you, it's a great recruiting tool. The thing I think that's crazy in the dynamics of the world that we're in football is recruiting. And I think college coaches, they want to see the film, but if you can apply that it's this many yards per carry, this yak, that, you know, these tackle for losses, it's going to help in recruiting. But also the thing is when we got to like Tuesday or Wednesday, you know, we had questions about how practice, you know, I hope everybody deals with what we deal with is you go out with your game plan of what you're trying to scout against and you look like crap in practice. I mean, you know, a team gives you an offensive scheme and you've got the defensive plan you think is going to work and your kids come out, they don't grasp it. And you always go back to the board. And the thing that we revolted, I mean, I guess we bounced back into was if you do the heavy work early in the weekend, if you will spend that extra 30 minutes and input that data, when you can go back and you can say, okay, what do they do when they're given this front? So you can go back and click, did they ever get 4-3? Do they ever get a 3-4? And, you know, a lot of folks said, you know, and I'll just give this example. I won't name the team, but there was a big playoff win that we had. And I sat as devil's advocate with my coaching staff for the longest. I mean, we probably spent 45 minutes arguing over huddle because they were like, give a 3-man face to this, to do this in the back end, because they get this all the time. If you'll give them this, but then you rotate it down when you want a 4-man face. And I bought in. And so all week we practiced it. And then come game time, we gave a look that was different. It was still what I wanted. It was just at times I was able to give more to my coverage or give more to a zone pressure. And it was only just trusting the statistical analytics of what we had built in our data. We had looked, and when we went back and seen that teams that had went against their pass with a lighter face, they had more success, or they were able to contain their quarterback. And so we were able to do that. And it was something that, you know, sometimes you can talk about it, you can teach it, and you can really believe in it. And even yourself have to keep yourself in check sometimes. And I would just tell you that extra leg work, coaches, if you jump in, utilize huddle to what it can be. And you may find some things that you like better than what we're doing. So like I said, my email is pruss@rcsnc.org. If there's anything that you come across that you're interested in from this talk, or if there's anything that I can share, you know, our culture is a fun thing to be around, but honestly, in the brotherhood of coaching, you know, I'm always about trying to help other coaches and help everybody get out on a better foot to make the game better and enhance it better for our kids.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, thank you for your time. And again, you know, Coach Russ, he does a great job on social media as well. I had a chance to sit in on one of his presentations in Charlotte, and I knew that, you know, he was definitely a guy for an episode. So thank you for all you do, Coach. And again, coaches, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, Coach Russ is very, very helpful. Feel free to reach out to him. He's very busy, but he does a great job of making time for others. Thank you, Coach.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Thank you for having me.